Hey YCC, I'm here with YungPlague after our second month of locals leaderboards. He placed first out of 37 duelists. So, what deck did you play?
I played Zulich
Zulich. Okay,
for most of the month.
most of the month. I think you were also on other decks as well.
They were all. I played three Lich-based decks: Zulich, Twin Lich, and Numeron Lich. Cascading from best to worst, basically.
All right. So let's move on with the deck profile.
All right. So gonna start off with the hand traps. I'm playing 2 Crow, 2 Bell, 2 Meister, and 3 Ash. Pretty standard hand traps for this format. Almost every deck has something to do with the graveyard, and Crow is just so good right now. Bell does a lot of work for both you and hitting your opponent. This protects your Lich a lot of the time, and then Meister's really good in the mirror match, and of course Ash is just good right now, as it forever will be. Next to the Zoo ratios, I'm playing a little bit, let's say, controversial Zoo ratios. 1 Thoroughblade, 1 Ram, 1 Bunny Blast, and then 2 Whiptail. Most people are only playing 1 Whiptail. I really like 2. It really helps if you make a small Trident with the Bunny Blast or the Ram. You have something in hand to give a little bit more protection. You can out big monsters with them if you can't get over them. That's the Zoo lineups, and then just 2 Eldlich, pretty standard. Off to the spells, playing 1 Barrage, and then, because it's Barrage. Called by the Grave. This card's nuts at 1, feels extremely unfair at 1, but, kind of need it, or combo best deck without it. 2 Cosmic. There's so much back row, especially in the YCC locals. There's no reason to not be playing any back row hate main deck. Just without it, you get blown out so often. 3 more Zoo names, basically. It's all 10 key is. 3 Eldlin for consistency. Ban this card, please. This card does not deserve to be legal for any reason. And there's no reason to also not be main decking this card, especially in decks like Zulich, or any deck that can make Zeus or OTK. You go second, your opponent activates a trap when you normal summon a Zoo, like say they flip a Torrential, because Torrential is normally very good against Zulich. You red reboot them, and then you wipe their entire board, because Zeus is fun card. Another card that should be banned, Imperial Order. 9 out of 10 times, if I flip this card and it sticks, you just win the game. You just can't lose.
Right. There's so many good generic spells, and
Red
Reboot and Zeus just punishes players hard for setting.
Yeah, for sure. 3. I love this card. 3 Strike. I love hitting striker players with it, because normally this deck has a very rough striker matchup. But they just go into their first link, you strike them, no more Ray. However, if I did own Droplets, I'd 100% be main decking Droplets over Strike, because Droplets is another very unfair card in the meta right now. And then the cards we're playing these guys, because we're playing the Eldlich. And you need these cards for the Eldlich engine. 3/3/3. I see a lot of people playing like 2 Huaquero. I don't agree with that at all. You're just losing your grind game. And also, again, super heavy graveyard format. Why get rid of cards that banish from the graveyard? And the amount... one of my favorite plays to do with this deck. I have a live Huaquero, and my opponent goes Ice Dragon's Prison, targeting my Eldlich. I'll Huaquero my own Eldlich so I don't get both of them banished. Kind of a neg, but it's better than losing both.
Right.
With And yeah, I pretty much already said what I would change about the main deck is I would just put droplets in over strike. Maybe if I'm seeing a lot more players play prosperity in their builds. I'm not sure how I feel about that because I really like keeping my entire extra deck, but I guess in a lot of matchups there's a lot of cards you can just get rid of.
Right, so you're pretty comfortable with the main deck as it is.
Yeah, and depending on how the format changes going forward, I could change the hand trap lineup. You know, I see a lot of players playing Gamma, but there's not a whole lot you do going first outside of activating Tenkey or Eldland that's gonna get you hand trapped. Or maybe if you like go Dryden, pop Eldland. But yeah, I don't see Gamma as a very good option. And there's not really a whole lot of other great hand traps right now.
Right.
All right, so on to the extra deck. I'm playing Link Spider to get a trap into the grave. Phoenix to out any annoying back row. I don't go into this card too much. You could probably cut it if you wanted to, but I feel like if I did cut it, the very next game I play, it'd probably come up. So, and then Avendritz. Oh yeah, and then yeah, if you ever need to get rid of 2 names or just 2 cards in general, and then Avendred Savior. I was playing Vampire Sucker for a while. That card kind of sucks because you only get to draw when you special summon from the graveyard, and Eldlich effect from graveyard adds to hand and then special summons from hand. So you don't get to draw, and you don't Sanguine very often from graveyard either. So the Avenged Savior is very cool because it is a very big threat to big monsters. Because as long as you have another Eldlin in deck, you attack with this and you can make your opponent's monster lose 2,000 attack and damage. So I've outed a lot of Dragoons with this card, stuff like that. And it's also just a way to get rid of 2 golden land traps as well and get an Eldlich in the grave.
Right.
Then to the Zoos, one Hammer Kong because he's the worst one. 1 Dryden because she's the best one. She's limited. 2 Borbo because we like ignoring our opponent's entire board. 2 Tiger Mortar, and then the 2 Chalk, which are just pretty standard. There's a lot of times where you can Zeus your opponent. They don't have a follow-up on their turn, but you might not have enough damage, and you can like go summon a Zoo, make Tiger summon the Trident back, or sorry, make Chalk summon the Tiger back. Sorry, Chalk summon back Trident, Tiger Mortar, give it a material, so you don't always have to force Zeus, just for an extra pop. Really standard Zoo lineup. Wouldn't change anything about it. Really good ratios. Vespinato, I don't see a lot of players playing this in Zulich, but this card pushes for so much damage so often, especially if you can get a Zeus on field first and then you make this, you have 55 on board. Its effect is really good too. If it does get destroyed by your opponent's card, you get to just special summon a Zoo from grave to follow up on your next turn. Gustav Max, this card has won me a lot of games. It's also the only card I'd seriously consider cutting, and I'd probably just cut it for a Pleiades, or maybe like a Axis Code, try and fit that in somewhere. But usually I see a lot, when I see players playing Axis Code Unicorn in this deck, I really just feel like you're overextending a lot going into that. If you have that amount of material to make that combo, you've probably already won with the other cards you've already been summoning and using. And then the only reason to play this deck is 2 Zeus.
Strong card?
Yeah, this card's it's a pretty good card. I really like how Konami keeps printing absurdly overpowered generic Xyz monsters. It's pretty fun. It's a fair card though, right? It can still be targeted. He doesn't have any protections from anything. It's a fair card. And then Oh, I'm about to show you the spiciest side deck you've ever seen, okay? We're playing only 2 Droll, okay? I used to talk a lot of trash about this card, but especially after last week, this card's actually a lot better than I thought. We have a couple Drytron players, and we have I always play against this Salad player, and I realized after a game, like, wait, all Salad does is add the hand. So Droll Lock's pretty crazy against a lot of rogue decks too. I would definitely consider putting this back up to 3 over 2. Playing 3 Lancia, I feel like everyone should be playing 3 Lancia. There's so many good banish decks. It just stops Bird Up from really doing anything impressive. Completely shuts off dinos. Slows VW down to a halt. PK. PK deck's really good against that. I am also playing the Scythe because I am playing the Sanctums. I'll talk about that in a little bit.
That also goes with the Lucia as well, right?
Yeah. 1 Day of Peace because there's a couple really grindy burn decks in the locals as well, and this card it just stops you from getting just blown out from a random burn card they might have sided in. And it can at least force a draw or something like that. Losing the time nowadays just really sucks. 3 Dark Ruler, no more. This card's crazy. Obviously not as crazy as Droplets, but there's been a couple games where I've played against Bird Up and they've gone full combo, and there's no way I'd ever break that board with the main deck. But they just have no answer to this unless they have a live Oath Engrave. This just completely blows them out of the water. You just do this, go into Zeus, wipe everything, and go on and about your duel. 2 Anti-Spell Fragrance. This card's almost as good as Imperial Order. Very good card for siding in game 2 and 3. If you're afraid your opponent's obviously just going to side in like Lightning Storm, Harpies, Cosmics, everything like that. And again, there's still just a lot of decks right now that heavily rely on spells. And, it doesn't ever really bother you that much in this deck.
And it even stops a lot of chainable quick plays, because they can't activate on your turn after they set them. They have to wait a whole turn rotation.
Yeah, that's very strong. Because then you still have the chance to, I guess Zeusing with the face-up anti-spell, pretty bad, but sometimes it could just blow them out as well. But right. You can Cosmic the back row they've set, you can Eldlich it, everything like that. And then we're playing the 3 Sanctum. I remember a time when this card was super popular to side, and I hated siding it. Because every single game, I would side this in with the Scythe, and I'd either open this plus the Scythe or just the Scythe, and I had no way to pop it. And it just felt terrible every time. But for some reason, recently, and especially in this format, this card is crazy. As long as I don't have the Ash to negate it, or the Gamma to stop the Scythe effect, you flip this card on their first summon, you just win. Just so many decks just can't. You keep them out of the extra, they just can't do anything. And then it gives you a 22 body, which sometimes, surprisingly, Zulich has a little bit of trouble putting good damage on board.
Right.
Yeah, but I've really been liking this card, and especially if you open like Sanctum Anti-Spell, you just for sure win, or Sanctum Order, crazy.
Anyway, so that's the deck. How likely are you to stay on this? Because you have been through several iterations of Lich recently.
I mean, the only thing that would make me not play Lich right now is if for some reason on the ban list they're like, yeah, let's put Sanguine to 1, which I don't see them doing that. Yeah, I'm really liking the deck. It's I like the interaction it has with my opponent a lot. It has a good matchup to most of the meta. The hardest matchup is probably Shadal decks. Just this Shadal matchups just seem to be almost unwinnable most of the time. I've been like double aerialed. That hurt. That sucks so much. Windows very good against this deck. All the back rows very good. Yeah, that would be the main issue this deck has right now is the amount of Shadal that's been popping up recently. Combos almost feels pretty free with this deck though. It does have just a bad control matchup in general, or any deck that can just spit out Dragoon over and over again, or Zexal. Pretty annoying. But at least with Zexal, you can like normal summon, special, go into a Trident, and then pop it on their turn if they don't do anything else with it.
So you did want to shout some people out before we close off, so go ahead.
Yeah. I want to shout out my boy Reginald K, best Altergeist player there is. Helps me a lot with play testing and theory crafting with all my decks. And then I'd like to shout out the YCC staff and community. Staff's been working really hard recently to get more people motivated into playing events. Just making more events so people always have somewhere and someplace to play. Yeah, they've been doing a really good job recently. Locals are fun. Unfortunately, I couldn't play in the YC3 event, but I heard that everyone had a really good time with that. So yeah, you guys should join the server if you already haven't, and maybe you can duel me sometime.
Speaking about that, the link is in the description. We host.
Yeah, that's the description.
We host locals every Wednesday and Saturday at 6 p.m. EST, with King of the Hill happening every weekday at 10 p.m. and Fun Friday Draft, which Plague hosts every Friday.
Which I do host. It is a lot of fun.
Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.